Right. Good morning, everybody. Yes, it is Thursday, which means it is the burning platform. Phumi Mashiko and I are ready to take care of you this morning and look to, we're talking to a lot of political leaders. And today we're going to speak to Colleen Makhubele, President of the People is how she styles herself. Huh? How do you like that? You like that?
I also read that, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah, so she's with, what is the party called? South African Rainbow Alliance, SARA. So we'll see what they have to say for themselves a little bit later on. You're looking resplendent this morning, Pums. What's the occasion?
Blue.
Oh, look at her in blue. She looks great.
It's for all the haters. See me
The
in
haters.
blue. It's for the haters. See
Which
me in blue.
who
Do
hates
see-
you?
But look, do you see? I also have like blue eyeshadow.
You got the whole blue thing going.
Blue.
Okay.
It's part of this like color revolution I'm on.
Because you used to just wear the black.
Yeah.
Not like me. I'm still stuck on that.
I'm on
So
a
have I got to
color
get with your
revolution.
color revolution?
No.
No?
It's actually it's quite hectic actually. It's quite a lot of work.
Jeez,
All
looks
this
like it.
brightness.
And also, did you have to wake up extra early to look this glamorous?
No.
No, this is normal for you.
This is yeah.
Right, well.
This is
credit.
what happens.
Listen, Phumi said something to me just now that really upset me. She said the young ones, the children, are busy referring to those of us who are old and who are slightly old as being those who were born in the thousands. So just in case you were already feeling shitty about yourself getting a day older every sunrise.
So, yesterday,
Someone somewhere is calling you one of those people born in the thousands.
I spoke to someone yesterday here at the event, and Alex, I think it was, and he said, he asked me when I matriculated. I said, long time ago in the thousands. He almost fell over.
Well, it's a horrible thing to say. You know, I study history, and when people talk about this and that century BC and this and that century AD, I mean, it's the thousands.
It's the thousands.
Oh, my God.
It's the thousands.
We were at, we were all busy. We drove to a thing the other day. So it was Simpiwe and Dory and James and I. And then, you know, we were asking each other, how does your ID number start?
Like a phone number?
And some people's ID numbers start with a 2. Not with a 2, but with a 0.
Yeah.
Or with a 1 or with a whatever.
Yeah.
And then some of us start with a 7. So I'm like, oh my God. Anyway, we're in the 1900s. We were born in the 1900s.
Yeah, the 1900s.
Thousands.
Well, because ID number is like a phone number.
Yes.
071, actually.
Oh, really?
It's a
Yeah.
071. And we're going to Home Affairs. Wish us luck. We're going to Home Affairs this afternoon for his ID.
Okay.
So
Big moment.
wish us luck. Because the
Well-
last time we were there was dun da 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 a system
Oh,
shut down.
this team is down.
Your system shut down. So
Well,
so I have had a great run with Home Affairs experiences when I went to go do my license renewal, when I
Yeah.
went to renew my passport. Did I lose my ID? I don't remember. But I've had a great run with all those things. Do it all online, make a booking, show up on time. When I went with Kanejo, I've done all of this stuff online. We were just going there for the biometrics.
yeah.
First time in maybe 5 visits to Home Affairs that I had a bad experience.
Well, one of the other ways that people date each other, and by date, I don't mean go on a date. I mean, figure out how old each other are.
I've forgotten what a date is.
Yeah, me too. Is if you have one of those old green IDs or if you have an ID card. So if you have an ID card, then you are usually, now I'm lucky I've got both.
I don't know what
But I
my
haven't
green
used my
ID is.
I think
actually,
your green one,
it might be in the safe.
you might have to whip it out for voting.
No.
this year. You don't need it anymore.
Why would you need it?
I don't know. There used to be a
No.
time where you needed your ID to vote, your green ID.
No. That was.
Because I've got a card. I'll
that
take
was
that.
then. That was.
Are you sure? Pum? Are you sure?
Kudala le. Just
Okay.
take your
All
card.
right. So that I can put that away.
Speaking of for voting, so even though the president has announced when the voting day is,
Yes.
he has not given out the proclamation, which means, and I saw an interview with the CEO of the IEC, Simon Mabulo, saying that they expect it'll come out tomorrow, the proclamation. But that means that you still have time to check yourself on the voters roll and get people who are not registered, because the voters roll closes as soon as that proclamation comes out. The voters roll closes and you can't
Right.
register anymore. If you have moved provinces,
Mhm.
check that you are registered in the right province, because this is a national election. You can
Right.
vote anywhere in the province at any site. As long as you're in the right province, you'll be able to vote provincial.
But
and
if you've moved
national.
provinces lately,
If you've
then
moved provinces,
big problems.
immigration,
Yeah.
make sure, because then you won't be able to vote for the provincial. You'll be able to vote for the national, but you won't be able to vote for the provincial. Just saying.
Okay.
You still have
Good to know.
time.
Okay, so I didn't even realize that we could keep voting until Friday. I mean, keep registering until Friday.
Registering
for the elections.
well, till the proclamation is signed.
Okay.
And that hasn't been signed yet. It's
So
just been a
probably
verbal-
until tomorrow.
So probably till
So
tomorrow.
last
do it.
last night we had a little discussion here as part of the podcast party, which was I think a very, very interesting discussion between three young men who have already got tremendous influence in their own ways. All three of them have been on the Burning Platform before. They are Sizwe Mpofu Walsh, Penwell, the Black Pen, and Mighty Jamie, who's also been on this show with us a couple of times. Now, they were talking about what the future might hold and what South Africa is like politically now, and especially from the point of view of younger people and people who are maybe voting for the first time or might be considering voting for the first time in this election. So we found that pretty interesting. But while I was talking to Phumi afterwards, she said to me, you know, what we've got to do is talk about the budget. And I suddenly panicked. I thought, oh God, I haven't even looked at the budget. So last night when I got home at like 9 o'clock.
Well done.
Yeah, I read through like some very basic stuff. So as far as I can tell, not a whole lot going on.
Guys, Gareth let me tell you, I don't know. Have I think I have met people that went to school with you, but Gareth is a bad influence, guys. I'm
Why?
telling him here
Why?
that the
Why,
budget
Pums?
speech, I've got the speech, it's 27 pages. I just have to read through it for today. Gareth says, you don't have to read that. You don't have to read that, he says. And then arrives here this morning. And when he got home, he read
No,
this.
there's no way I read the whole thing. Okay,
you
so
to fail.
all right. So here's
Because
the
I
synopsis. No nonsense, Pumi. You are the one who sets an unrealizable standard for the rest of us because you read everything. So all right, here's what I got. A little bit, okay? Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana has tabled a budget mixed with optimism, I don't know about that, and caution about the country's public finances. Government put together a plan it believes will address macroeconomic stability, structural reforms, and improvements in state capability to raise growth rates. But of course, it's a budget in a voting year. So there's only so much that they want to rock the boat. Am I wrong?
Listen.
No?
Two things that had me. So there was a third thing, actually, which I still need to do a little bit more reading up about. Because strangely enough, I don't read the budget speech as much as I would read the SONA speeches, the provincial speech, because that for me has always been much more interesting. It kind of gives you an indication of where the budget. Right.
Well, okay.
Also because the budget does not work like your household budget.
No.
It is not the same thing.
No.
But the thing that jumped out at me,
What?
20%. 20% is what we spend. 20% of our budget is what we spend servicing debt.
And he's borrowing more money.
So every time you see
Mm-hmm.
cap in hand,
Yeah.
all of these loans, all of these. Every time you see that, just know, Baba, just know 20% of
That's a
our
huge amount of money.
servicing debt.
Yeah.
Guys,
If you were doing that in your household, let's say that was your bond or whatever else it was, you would run out of money very quickly.
and the second thing that was for me a little bit like, oh, really? Are we doing that? Is that they are going to be essentially raiding the piggy bank. You know, there's a surplus cash reserve
In the Reserve
that
Bank.
in the reserve bank
Yeah.
that is actually there as a buffer
Yes.
for when we have currency fluctuations. And the way he says it, like he says it, oh, like it's a good thing, right? He says, you know, when the rand goes down, there's more money in that surplus because it's pegged to exchange rates.
Yeah.
But when the rand does well, there's less money there. But because we've done so badly, the rand has depreciated so much. We've got so much money sitting in there.
I mean,
It's like, what?
Yeah, he does try to sell it as a good thing. Now, the other
That
thing
made me a little bit like,
So the other thing is, although I'm not drinking at the moment, I feel sorry for my drinking friends because this sin tax thing every time is just an automatic thing, and I don't know why we settle for it. I don't know why we allow it. Because as a nation, one of the few things people get to do that actually makes them feel better is smoking and drinking. I know it's not good for us, and I know that various health ministers have tried to stop us along the way, but we learned during lockdown that South Africans prioritize drinking and smoking more than almost anything else, right? And yet they go after this year after year. They increase it more and more. I think that probably 50% of what you pay for now when you buy a bottle of spirits goes straight to the government. 50%. So we get cross.
We added a tax for vapes.
And vapes,
and whatever.
Well, that's fine.
I don't know, hubblies and vapes and
that's
whatever
fine.
those things are.
But the fact is, these guys just automatically keep adding to that. And I think they're going to reach a point too where people go, we're going to make our own, or we're going to buy the cheapest one and fortify it or something.
No one's going to do that, guys.
You know what?
No one's going to do that. Listen, people tried it in the lockdowns with the pineapple beers and the whatnot, but it quickly, when the bottle stores opened, that quickly went away. I don't think anyone's making their own like craft.
So they did propose tax increases totaling 15 billion rand to alleviate immediate fiscal pressures, while personal income tax brackets will remain the same. The government is looking to corporates to meet its revenue shortfall. National Treasury now plans to introduce global minimum tax rules for multinational corporations. This will see big corporations pay a minimum of 15% in efforts to boost tax collection. Social grants are expected to take up the lion's share of the government's expenditure this year. Increases across the board expected to take effect in April. So what do we say about that?
Though there is no increase in the fuel levy.
Yeah.
So,
well, what do you think of all of that? Because I just filled up my car now, and I was like, oh God, this is costing more and more. I mean, literally on the way in this morning, I was like, oh, I've got to fill this thing up again. The government's announced plans to dig into the country's gold and foreign exchange reserves, as Phumi told us, to pay off some of its high and rising debt. In a move that has garnered mixed reactions, Godongwana says the National Treasury will withdraw 150 billion from the contingency reserve account over the next 3 years. Transnet and Eskom are among the biggest drags on the country's economy. There are no new cash bailouts for struggling and underperforming SOEs. So not all bad news, but not great.
Yeah.
It's like a bit of a meh, you know?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
There's not really much else to say about it. And I feel kind of sorry for this minister because he's also got his hands tied. There's only so much they can do. You know, it's like when the governor of the Reserve Bank has only one instrument with which to make any influence. It's the Reserve Bank's ability to influence interest rates. That's all they've got. This is his one occasion in the year where he gets to influence things. And we've got competent people in the Treasury, in the finance department. We don't have completely useless people there. Out of all the departments in government, that's one of the better run ones.
Although, you know what I did see yesterday that I thought, is this a joke? Is it Parliament RSA? One of those Twitter accounts. I saw a little picture of Des van Rooyen.
What's he doing?
Remember him?
Is he still alive?
But they had
What's he doing?
tweeted this thing like it was some kind of fun
Remember him, minister
fact
for 2
saying that
days.
he was minister. It was so weird. I was like, what is this
Oh, my
admin
God.
doing? Because they had a picture of Desmond Roy and saying he was appointed on like the 12th until the
Fired on the
15th.
15th.
I was like, these guys, what's going on here? This is not a joke. But of
Fuel
course,
levy remains, says propaganda, but carbon tax.
yay, when I
Yeah.
saw that.
No, that's stupid too, because we know that this is just a bullshit scheme to put extra money in the government's coffers.
I'm not.
Congo Chris says, isn't it obvious they're trying to buy votes with grants paid by an ever-shrinking tax base? Well, that's true too. And then I don't see that many people in the comments complaining about the sin taxes, but I did think that it was worth commenting on the fact that they just automatically increase that every year. It's like a given, and people just take it. Do you think there's a breaking point with things like that?
I don't know.
I mean, do you think
I don't think so.
because they're being very careful with personal and income tax, right?
I don't think so. Because what is it that one can do about it? When you reach that breaking point, what do you do?
I don't know. Maybe
There's no way to opt out. It's like I'm telling you that nobody is going to be brewing their own vodka simply because they've now figured that the
so maybe
taxes are too high.
So they've sat in a meeting and they've discussed this, and they would have said, okay, people are addicted to alcohol and cigarettes. They're addicted. No two ways about it. So they're going to drink and smoke no matter what. They will find the money somehow. So we can just keep increasing that.
What is that? Yeah, when you reach
Because
the breaking
it's
point,
not as
what's
if
your
people
opt out?
People are not
going to opt
protest
out.
by not buying this stuff, even if it's expensive.
Yeah.
So they can just keep doing that. I mean, it is a clever place then to nail people. Huh?
But why nail people? Why
because
nail people?
because they need money, because they spend more than they have. I mean,
Really?
if you mention a household budget,
different ideas.
if you had Enoch Godongwana running your house budget, you would already be living on the street. Am I right? And not just him, but every finance minister going back to when we still had growth under Thabo Mbeki. You wouldn't want him running your household budget.
Actually, this morning, there's and we've tried to get him on this show and failed, but we'll keep trying.
Yeah. Who?
There's a really fascinating economist that I follow, Makhubele, and this morning, I saw a tweet by him where he was saying our economy is a story of two halves, between 1994 and 2008, where there was quite, an upswing of growth. And then 2009 to now, where our growth has tanked. I mean, we're lucky if we can get 1.2% or something ridiculous like that. But interestingly, at the same time, in the past 15 years, almost every other emerging economy has been able to achieve at least a 4% growth. And we're struggling to get to that place. So compared to other economies that are our size, other economies that have similar constraints like ours, everybody else is outperforming us.
Not surprising. I mean, we're not focused on growth. They might say these things, but they don't actually care about growth. I mean, so much red tape in business. You know this, you're in business. There's so many things you have to comply with. And government should stay the hell out. They should actually just leave us alone so that we can run our businesses. Anyway, a couple of comments here. We paid 400 Rand for a bottle of Olaf Berg during lockdown. So yeah, they can nail us, says Sam.
I don't even know what Olaf Berg is.
I think it's a brandy. Most of the liquor manufacturing is done by large multinationals. Soon our country will be 100% booze funded. Carla is very, very right.
Wow.
I love that. Carl says, I would let Trevor Manuel run my household budget in a heartbeat. That is one of the most intelligent people government's ever had. Well, he was administrative and he was very good at paying attention to the basics. So let's give him credit. But Phumi pulls a very big, wide-eyed expression when you say one of the most intelligent people ever.
Do you know about that Gini coefficient thing that is troubling this country? All of that.
Yeah.
That ever-growing gap between the poor and the rich happened under that young man's watch.
And then Sanele wants to know, what is the name of the tree behind Sis Phumi? I've had it in my house for years. Even moved to Cape Town. It never occurred to me once that first name basis with its C-section. Okay, so it's not a real plant for starters, but it is meant to be a ficus. So how do you know? How can you imagine that I would know something stupid like that? A ficus? F-I-C-U-S. Okay. And that is lots of indoor plants are in the same family. They grow very well indoors. Lots of people have them in their houses in South Africa, inside and out. But it's meant to be, but that's a fake one.
Wow.
Because every plant, real plant that we have, Jane overwaters or underwaters and then it dies.
Because we once had quite a lovely, thriving little vegetable garden outside this.
Are you kidding? We had a forest indoors. Do you remember? We had huge, big palm trees. This is what we've got left is a little palm tree here. I can't really show you now, but that's
doing well.
That's a real one. Yeah, and we've got a couple around here. And I mean, we've got this magnificent garden around us now. So we're not wanting. Let's put it that way. Government and politicians are very happy to waste the money that they coerced from the average. Well, that's the case all over the world. I mean, really, it just boggles my mind that we are still in a situation thousands of years after we were forced by kings and emperors to render unto Caesar that which was Caesar's. Even the Bible tells us that, right? And we're still doing it.
Oh, goodness. Render unto Caesar.
And the deal's not that great because I'm sure if you or Phumi or I had to list all the things that we get from the state in this country at this stage, it's minimal. So what you're doing really is you're subsidizing other people. And that's part of your responsibility if you believe that you have a responsibility. If not, you consider it theft. And it's that simple. So JP wants to know, Phumi, have you read, because you're such a nerd, Phums, and you do these things, the CADA deployment documents yet? 1,300 plus pages. Sure.
No.
You haven't?
No, I actually have no interest in reading it. I don't think there's anything that I'm going to see there that's going to interest me, that's going to surprise me, I have no interest.
But you don't think that in there somewhere there are secrets about the ANC and who they move around where, or do you think it's so glaringly obvious you don't need to read them?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
There's also, because they're not redacted, but they also did come out to say, well, we can't find these documents, these ones. And how convenient. The person who was in charge was Jessie Duarte, and she's dead. She's dead,
yeah. Of course, all the people who...
How good do you think that the ANC's record keeping is?
No, not very. I don't think so at all.
I have no interest.
I think what you really need is to see the WhatsApps. You need to be on those WhatsApp groups. Forget about the documents. These days, it's about the WhatsApp groups. And I bet you Fikile Mbalula on his phone has got a ton of ANC WhatsApp groups. And they all keep records on each other there. That's where their record keeping is excellent, mostly because WhatsApp does it for you. But you know, that's where the smallanyana skeletons really are.
It's the snide remarks.
Yeah.
That's what you want to see. It's not going to be on those stuff. Who do you think does the minute taking in those meetings? Like,
they probably don't write anything down on purpose.
Those documents for me are not, they really, really, really don't interest me. Not at all.
Okay. Well, some people think it's very important, and the DA are pushing hard to have them released. And maybe they'll go through them and do the fine-tooth comb stuff for us. But I think it's all in the WhatsApps, and you're not going to get your hands on those.
Well,
they're not going to just hand those over to us, right? Okay. Mapadima says, good morning, everybody. Just popping in to remind everyone to like and subscribe. Thank you, Mapadima. Otherwise, we would have forgotten. I'm going to work. I'll catch up on the podcast. Enjoy the burning platform. You see, people have got things to do, people to see, places
going
to
go. To work. 6:30. Yeah. I saw a thing. So Mapadima posted this. She posted this at 6:28, and I saw a thing about the average time South Africans wake up. being
What is
something
it?
like 624.
Really? Okay, so we're just on the other side of that now.
So good morning, all
Uh-huh.
of y'all that are just waking up.
Congo Chris says, yes, those documents are actually redacted. The excuse given is that people have not forfeited their Poppy Act privileges. Surely that information is in the public interest. You could argue that, and a good lawyer will. But I'd love, and Snipes says quite rightly, how come hackers don't invade those WhatsApp groups and leak? I mean, that would be great, eh?
You don't need a
Yo.
hacker. You know what we need?
We just need
more,
an insider.
We need
That's
more
all.
of the what was thing is wife's name Mgoma. We need more of her. More kind
Oh.
of scorned wives.
Yeah.
More scorned
And
wives.
Malusi
just like-
Gigaba's ex, who also lost it and
yeah.
revealed all.
She's
How he would arrive at home with bags of cash. That one.
Yeah, she's that's her. No,
That's the one.
She's the one. We need more scorned wives. That's what we need.
So anybody in the ANC who's particularly upset, and there'll be more of those on the way, because they're going to be more and more people excluded as the pot runs dry. You know
what comes next now that first, when the voters roll closes, no more political parties are going to get registered.
Thank God, because we've got too many already.
Then comes the party lists.
Ooh, and then they're going to be jockeying for position.
And seeing those people that are there at number 300. Number 300.
Watch them start turning on
the
each
party
other.
List.
Because
you have to give your party list has to obviously take into account if you were to win everything, who will fill these seats. This is also the thing that's been the bone of contention about.
I mean, these smaller parties, they'll only get to number 20 and they'll run out of people.
Yeah, but they still need to submit 400 people.
So you could find yourself on a list without even knowing.
So it's
your
the
friends,
list.
If you're friends with who did we have in last week? Roger Jardine. If you're friends with him, you're probably going to end up on his list.
That's who we're looking for.
Hey,
those lists.
Just by the way, while we're talking about Roger Jardine, because he was in last week on this show, and I must say, I thought it was an extremely lackluster performance by him, and we are here also to give a judgment post hoc, right? We are here to talk about it. I cannot believe that corporate South Africa is so out of touch. Because they are in bed with all the politicians. You know, big business in this country thinks they know better than all the rest of us. And I know that we try to walk an objective line on this show. We try to stand up for private enterprise. We try to stand up for government where it's necessary. We try to stand up for ordinary people. But I don't know how you felt, Phumi, but after having Roger Jardine in, and he's not a horrible person. I don't think there's anything wrong with the guy. I don't think he's some kind of negative, nefarious influence on things. But I'm just not at all impressed with him. And frankly, if Roger Jardine, God bless him, because he's at least thrown his hat in the ring, which you always encourage people to do. If you're going to make a difference,
do it.
Get involved, right?
Do it.
But I have to say, if that is the sort of person who's the chairperson of a board, like First Rand, if people like him are the kinds of people that you find on corporate South Africa's boards, then I am absolutely unsurprised that we are underachieving as a nation. I was not impressed by anything he had to say. He if you put him in the political ring with people like Julius Malema, he will be eaten. I mean, come on, am I wrong? He will be eaten alive. The man has got. He says platitudinal things. He talks in boardroom mediocrities and buzzwords, and corporate South Africa is full of people who talk like Roger Jardine, and they all look to him. And believe me, there are a bunch of people with lots of money who must have said to him, "Roger, you've got to go. Here's some money," and they did. Apparently, his coffers are full, and this is the guy that they proffer to South Africa as, "Here's your messiah." They've got low standards, hey? No disrespect to Roger, but honestly, I'm just completely unimpressed. Am I wrong?
So the kinds of skill that one requires to climb up the corporate ladder.
The greasy pole. Yeah.
Interesting. head of skills.
But not
And
always, they don't always
and-
overlap with politics
but also they don't always overlap with high degrees of inspiration
or getting things done even.
or
Really?
yeah,
Even
like
getting things
I
done.
mean, it's just the things that a big part of it is who likes you.
Yeah, well, if that's
A big part of it is
if,
who likes you.
If corporate South Africa likes Roger Jardine, and we've been told by everybody that he's just a great guy. I mean, this is what I heard beforehand. I didn't know anything about Roger before he came in. And because South Africans, a lot of, not so many of the people who listen to us, but a lot of people who might listen to this podcast for the first time, never have heard us before, will go, oh, why is Gareth having a go at Roger? I don't think there's anything wrong with him as an ordinary citizen, as a person, even as someone who's been in business. But I just have to say that if you're one of those people who's always said, oh, you know, if only South Africa was run like a business, you know, there's that cadre of people in this country who always go,
a lot of them.
If we just ran it as a business, profit and loss, and, you know, if we just did the stuff that most big corporates do in this country, really, big corporates in this country just manage things. They don't really, there's very little visionary stuff going on at that level if Roger Jardine is who you offer up as a candidate. I don't see a whole lot of stuff happening there. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being unkind.
No, I think I walked away from last week's conversation feeling meh.
Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
I didn't walk away from the conversation feeling
Oh, this is the guy.
particularly inspired or overjoyed.
I mean,
the prospect of putting this person in the bull ring with all the others.
The week before we had Gaten McKenzie, who you and I have a big disagreement with him on a couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
But at least he had fire and vim and vigor, right? You got to give him that. Like you might never vote for the Patriotic Alliance. You may disagree with everything they stand for. Give him credit. The guy he's going to rally people behind him. He's got leadership. He's got populism. He's got messaging. He's got an ability to charm people. Not everybody, but he's got it. I don't see any of that in Roger. God bless him. Honestly, I don't want anyone to get the wrong impression here that I'm nailing him, but what a middle of the road performance.
What we are going to do, because we're on a run, we're going to bring in as many of the various political people that we can bring in.
Yes.
We're going to have our own vote.
Today.
We're going to have our own vote, not at the end of the run.
No, but today we got Colleen Makhubele from SARA. We're going to find out about them.
I think we're going to have our own vote. And of the people that we've had on the show, see what the listeners think. See if the listeners have shifted on any one of the guys that come in, any one of the people that come in, if they've shifted and think differently about what all the various people are saying. Because the one thing that, you know, I think we don't have a lot of different media platforms, but the one thing that they try and do is give people opportunity to come in and,
sure,
you know,
that's what we're trying to do.
And show us the doilies they are selling.
Mm-hmm.
But I promise you, you're not going to. Yeah, there's this thing. This is how I see it. You know, in the township, well, at least in my township, there are ladies all my life. There are ladies who sell doilies. You know, doilies, that thing that sits on the table or whatever under. And they have lots of different ones, and they've got big bags, and they go house to house selling their doilies. And they, for me, one of the biggest lessons in business has been from watching those ladies. They come into the house, they knock at the door, they come into the house, and they ask for the old people. So they ask for Rabanta Badala. And then, because you're not going to buy. You're not going to buy as you open the door. And I'm sure it's changed a lot now because people are a lot more... people are a lot more afraid of letting strangers into their houses.
But I mean, an old lady selling doilies is not going to come and rob you.
But it never used to be like that. Like now the gates and the this, it's a thing. Okay,
Right.
then your mom comes out, or your aunt, or your gran, and they're like, okay, we're selling doilies, and they're like, oh, they ask, can we see the doilies? And then they unpack their bag.
Yeah.
Like there are 5
Yeah.
different types of doilies and colors and whatever. And the people look and they turn it around. How much is this one? Malini le, and all of that stuff. And the ladies are so patient with you, showing the doilies. And then, I mean, I've never seen my mom buy those doilies,
But she looks.
but she looks and engages. And then she says, oh, asina mali. Don't have money
No
today.
money.
And she had those ladies.
And they pack them back.
Patiently,
and they keep going.
and they go to the next house.
I saw someone
They will
selling.
be back next week.
I saw someone selling on the same basis brooms and mops and things yesterday.
Yeah.
And they were walking up and down my street, and I thought, I could do with a mop and a broom. So there will be a day when you'll buy the door.
Yeah, you'll buy. But the fact that and the consistency of sales, and the fact that they week after week, maybe every second week, and this is what we're doing.
You see these political parties. You
they
see them
must come here and show us their doilies, unpack them all, talk us through it, and then pack them up and go home. And then at the end, we'll have a poll. We'll have a poll and see who's been shifted. I mean, there were some comments when Gayton was here. There were some comments where people kind of felt like, oh, this guy is, there were lots of people who thought, wow, this guy is far out there.
Yes.
Some,
Here's Nolvuyo says, I might vote for Gayton.
So you see, there you go.
Look, I'm never going to tell anybody who to vote for, but I do think we must give all of them as much space as they need to hang themselves. And let's see who you like. That's the whole point of the Burning Platform, especially in the next couple of weeks leading up to the election. We'll give them all a chance. And they're all invited, even the Smolanyana ones.
Particularly the Smolanyana one. I'll tell you why. I will tell you why you want to hear even the Smolanyana ones. When we see what's happening in Johannesburg, because I live here, so I'm quite interested in the politics of that council, and you see the Al-Jamaz out there jostling, you see an ICM out there jostling. You're like, who are these people? Who are these people? Who did they talk to? Who did they get to vote for them? Because they're out there. I mean, they might have 0.001%, but depending on the number of people who show up to vote, I think at last count, it was something like 600 odd political parties on the ballot. Not on the ballot, but registered with the IEC. They may not all be part of the final ballot that you get when you walk into the booth, but there will be a lot. There will be a lot of those on there. We might get a little booklet. You might get a little, those little booklets, like an Avon book.
All right. So far, do you have any observations on some of the people we've had already? Or is it too soon? You want to see more?
Well, observations, yes. But I'm not going to, up until the very end, I'm not going to place my pick because I don't want to distort.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, you also wanted to talk about no F-bombs for the duration of Lent. Is that your...
This is me.
I could never... I could give up a lot of things, and I have, and it's been pretty easy for me to put aside certain things and do certain things. I'm pretty disciplined about things, but if you ask me to stop swearing completely...
And this... Particularly, I've been listening back to some of the shows. Guys, I think somebody once complained in the comments that they don't like the way I swear. So this is me in the burning platforms. So you must check me. You must check me, guys. If you hear me even and I have in the traffic.
So
if in the traffic I
swear, and no one's going to see you. So it's really you who knows.
And I am properly making an effort.
So I saw something the other day that made me think about this, because I've often had people say to me, oh, you can switch it off. And for years in radio, I never would swear on air. That was 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 15 years. And I don't think I ever slipped an F-bomb on the air.
I don't swear in front of my parents.
Or grandparents or whatever. So you can do it. But I remember I saw something the other day. I remember when Elon Musk went on stage and he was being interviewed and he said to all those advertisers who wanted to threaten him with a boycott if he didn't go along with prevailing narratives, and he said, "Go and F yourselves." Remember?
Mm.
And then a woman called Kara Swisher, who is a writer and journalist in New York, she was on CNN and she said, I can't believe this childishness of Elon Musk dropping the F-bomb. And who talks like that? He's a 52-year-old man. And how can he swear like that at a public event and with a microphone in front of him? And I thought, that's interesting, because on YouTube, the very next video, if you look up her name, is her interviewing Kathy Griffin at South by Southwest. And the two of them are dropping so many swear words. And I suddenly thought, what a hypocrite. You're going to go after Elon Musk for swearing, but you yourself are guilty of the same thing. People have no ability to reflect on their own poor performance. It's like there's this brick wall between some people, and it's happened to me. I get people pointing out my hypocrisy.
But it's also situational, right? So like swearing is also situational. It's in these moments where we're talking about the politics and we're talking about the irritants, and it riles me up.
Yeah, it drives me. No, it drives me mad. You see, the point with me is that I acknowledge that I have a foul mouth sometimes, and I can be very grumpy.
I do.
And I'm okay with that. And I've been at peace with it since I was, 15 years old. I mean, I remember getting into trouble for it at school.
Really?
Oh, yeah. And I grew up in a house where it wasn't a big deal. But my parents always said to me, there are some swear words that are just better than any other word. And they were right. They are right.
I used to have an English teacher who used to say, swearing means you don't have enough words in your vocabulary.
Now that I don't believe at all. I got lots of words in my vocabulary, but there's sometimes just nothing that goes better.
Some words have just enough pinch.
Yeah, and
just enough pinch.
And so that's my thing. And that's why I also borrow words from other languages. Afrikaans has got some great swear words.
I don't know Afrikaans swear words.
Oh, there's some good ones. No, come on, you do, Phumi. I'm not going to say them for you. Zulu's got filthy
good words.
And the Swati language is also full of filthy language. But if you're going to throw some of those in,
and Sesotho.
Ooh,
the Sesotho swear words.
There we go.
They hit a nerve. You feel it.
I've learned a few on my way, and I don't mind dropping them in, because I also do have a decent enough vocabulary. So it's not like it's standing in for other words. But I do find like swearing is not something worth getting upset about in 2024. I kind of at the proliferation of podcasts and independent content, and you go online and you're going to find a lot of that stuff. And if you're still one of those high collar, almost like this dress you're wearing at the moment, old grannies who are like, oh, I don't swear. I don't swear. It's terrible to swear. I think you're like stuck.
How do you make your voice crack like that?
Oh, it's so awful to have people swear. Come on. We know everybody does. All these hot mic moments where we've caught people who we think would never say things like that. They do. People swear, and it's just enough. Why are we pretending? Doesn't mean we all have to just unleash a torrent of verbal abuse at each other every time we see each other. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm just saying be honest and consistent. If you want to swear it off, literally, for a couple of weeks for Lent, good for you. But I'm never going to be that guy who pretends that I don't swear.
I'm totally. This is me. It's about bending my mental will, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's also about kind of bending my mental will to be able to do this. It's only 6 weeks.
Mapelo says, Xhosa swear words have a punch. Those clicks, man. Love it. Yeah, that really does. That hits hard. I mean, I remember when the former president, Jacob Zuma, when he was making a speech at a place called Nguza Hill, right? Nguza. And he loved saying it. He said it with such, and I mean, the man can use Zulu properly.
Which was a different inflection.
Yeah, but we know how he said it. He said it with purpose. Nguza Hill. And if you don't know what that means, you're going to have to look it up.
Witumelo says swearing is my love language. Aibo.
That's great. Okay, so there's some other things. We've still got a couple of minutes before we get to our break at 7 and then the burning platform. And this morning, as I mentioned earlier, Colleen Makhubele, former speaker in the Johannesburg municipality, the Gauteng legislature, and also someone who was in COPE up to just 5 minutes ago. I've got to ask her about COPE because COPE seems like it's just a retirement plan for Mosiuoa Lekota. There's nothing else left there. And, you know, it's like Bantu Holomisa is the UDM.
Yeah,
It's a retirement plan for him. We're basically putting him on pension and paying for him. That's what we are doing as voters. So we got to ask ourselves about that, and we'll ask Colleen about that. Also, if you've got someone who you would like to have on the show, let us know. I saw somebody here saying, please don't bring that ANC guy on who you had on last time. I don't know who you're talking about.
I think you're talking about the Johannesburg regional chairperson. That's who we had on, and that spoke at one word every 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But Gareth here has piqued my interest, and I'm very excited if it ever happens.
Yes.
And in fact, we should have had a bet because I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think it'll happen.
Gareth is trying to
trying.
Get Paul Mashatile here.
Yeah, because
it would be wonderful to have the deputy president.
Sugar Shabalala says as much. He says it would be interesting to get Paul Mashatile on. I just want to understand our deputy president. I didn't get a chance with Didi Mabuza. Well, through various channels and old cadres, I've been able to get to the deputy president's office, but whether
old cadres,
but no, really old cadres. And I'm trying to get him on, and we'll see. But so far,
I'm not holding my breath.
50-50 chance.
I'm not holding my breath. It would be wonderful.
I'd love to have the deputy president on. He's got a lot to answer for.
It would be wonderful.
All right. Phumi going to be effing and jeffing like a sailor on Easter Sunday.
I don't swear in front of my parents.
Where are the hot cross buns? Oh, really?
You know what? Because of Woolworths, I don't wait for Easter with those hot cross buns. You can have them at any time. They also have those special ones. They have those special ones with the chocolate.
We once, in fact, I think it was last year or the year before, we did a hot crust bun.
It was the year
comparison. It was. So we remember we had all those different hot crust buns. And we tried all of them, and we announced and anointed a winner. I think Checkers won it in the end.
I think Checkers won.
So we might have all of them compete for that again. All right.
We don't need any more competitions. This year is full of enough.
Oh, yeah.
This year has enough polling for all of us forever.
So I mentioned her in passing just now, and I was very rude about how she either overwaters or underwaters our plants. But today is Mum Jane's birthday.
Happy birthday.
I think we'll be celebrating with Jane a little bit later on. Okay, just quickly, can you help me understand Elsa Majimbo and Naomi Campbell and what's been going on there? Because I saw some noise on social media, but honestly, I didn't understand it. Help me.
Do you remember me telling you that this year is shaking the table coming in? This was with Cat Williams. After that, like Cat Williams.
And then all the pastors.
This year, shaking the table. So Elsa is this wonderful young comedian, social media personality who kind of took off. She's from Kenya.
Yes.
She took off during the lockdowns.
Yes.
And is now I think she now lives in Hollywood or something, because every time I see her, she's now become like super famous and super rich. And she's like always like in these fancy clothes and whatever. She's been telling stories about, so all her TikToks of late have been about how fantastic this life has been, you know. So she told the story about meeting a guy at the airport who was so wonderful, who then invited her to a private zoo with some sheikh in the middle of Dubai, like crazy stories like that. And when she tells the story, you kind of go, is this real? Is this for real? So for a couple of weeks, there was Elsa's just making up these stories, and then she brought the receipts. She was like, look at this picture of me petting the tiger. Look at me.
Oh.
Anyway.
So what does she say about Naomi
So
Campbell?
she told, there were some videos a couple of years ago during lockdowns, during the softer parts of the lockdown, of her and Naomi Campbell shopping in Nairobi, all that kind of stuff. So, she gets invites from Beyonce, Rihanna sends quotes her in tweets. It's all of that. So she told a story about how Naomi Campbell basically has been like blackmailing her or threatening to blackball her.
Ooh.
Because they went after that shopping trip in Nairobi. Naomi took her on a holiday to one of the coasts in Kenya on a private jet, and they became kind of friends and whatever. And in passing, Naomi said, "You should make a documentary about your life." And I don't know if the documentary happened because Naomi said that or whatever, but she did actually make a little bit of a documentary on her life and did not tell Naomi about it.
Oh.
And when it was at Cannes, when she was showing it at Cannes, somebody told Naomi. So Naomi phoned her up to say, "How dare you steal my idea?"
Oh.
And for 3 years, she says, she was in this catatonic state, always afraid that if something happened in her life, something great happened, she'd have to tell Naomi because she'd be afraid that Naomi's going to like, what? And there have been stories. We all know the issue with the cell phone, that Naomi's a mean girl. Naomi's always been a mean girl, right? But the way Elsa told the story, and then everybody was like, what? She told, and she fell into depression and all sorts of things. Then Naomi did a 10-minute clapback video.
Oh, shit. Now, how did that go? Because we know she, as you say, a mean girl. That's being nice.
Oh,
what did she say?
My word. And all the people online who kept saying to Elsa, "You shouldn't have said all of that because now she's definitely going to blackball you." I'm like, what is this? Like, if Naomi is bullying this poor child, we should not be telling her that that's how she's going to get out from under the thumb.
Right. She's a whistleblower on nastiness. So has Naomi been very, very mean in her reply?
Naomi in her reply was very like, oh, I mean, she benefited from the friendship and all these things. She's making it out to be more than what it actually is. And it's like, so now all the old videos of all the girls talking about Naomi, like mean girling them, have come out. Woo, this year, I'm telling you guys, this year is shaking the table.
Well, we'll have to see.
Because it's turned, hey. People are just like, Naomi's a mean girl, and at that age too.
Yeah, but she is, I mean, what kind of power does she still wield?
Enough.
Really? That she can ruin this Elsa's life?
Well, she knows people.
Huh. She does know people, but I mean, I wouldn't, and I'm nobody. I'm not Naomi Campbell's friend, but if she phoned me up and said, "Oh, we've got to blackball this person," I'd say, "Do your own dirty work. Who has the time to put people on a blacklist these days?" Huh?
What? Who has time to put people on a blacklist? It's become worse. What do you think cancellation is?
Yeah, but I don't participate in that stuff.
If one person, one of the things that Cat Williams spoke about is, and Monique, is somebody says,
Monique the comedian.
If somebody says, Elsa, who's only like 22, is difficult to work with, and she is, and it's somebody like Naomi, you kind of think, oh, do I want that person on my show? Do I want that person on my fashion show? Do I want that person in my campaign?
Has it started to affect Elsa?
So
is she talking about like loss of income or anything like that?
Well, Elsa said, I just want to be free. I just want to be free. And if people don't want to work with me, there'll be other people who will want to work with me. I don't want Naomi to have that power that she's had for 3 years over me anymore.
Who would? Who would want that? Who would want this very manipulative friend in the background? You know? That makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, I'm on her side, Elsa's side, no matter what. I've met Naomi Campbell once, and I can't really say I know anything about her. I only know what you know.
Yeah.
Didn't really have much of a conversation.
It was literally fun. And for me, it kind of, the meanness, and Naomi for many years has had this hanging over her, this
That she's
issue
a
of her
real
being a
bitch.
mean girl.
Yeah.
The issue, but also there've been lots of rumors of her, because one of the things that did come out with Elsa is that she also tried to pimp her out to some older
Ooh.
executives.
Now that's interesting.
It's all when I say shaking the table,
Jesus, all the stuff's falling out.
it's falling
That's interesting.
out.
Yeah, I wonder what that is.
And Naomi threatened to release the WhatsApps of her and Elsa talking about some of these people.
I'd love to see the WhatsApps. I would love to see how people talk to each other when we're not looking.
This is about someone, about this one of these older executives.
Okay. There's a lot to chew on this morning. Just when you think
it's only February, guys.
And just when you think we only talk politics on this show, you've got another thing coming.
I just want to say it's only February. All of this coming out.
That's true.
And it's only February. By the time we get to December, the aliens will be revealed.
Some people are begging for those aliens to come. All right. So next up, Colleen Makhubele on the Burning Platform. Stick around, cliffcentral.com. Thursday morning, Phumi Mashiko, me, you, and all of our guests on the way.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast
is another race that's coming up.
Oh, wait a minute. Is this in January?
This is in January, 5th to the 19th of January.
Are you going to Saudi?
I'm going to Saudi Arabia.
No, so you're going to Dakar. Dude,
Dakar!
I did Dakar in 2018.
Yeah.
I was in South America.
South American version.
I did Peru. Very similar in the Sea of Dunes, sand, off-roading nuts.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Okay, it is time for the Burning Platform Thursday mornings, our chance to catch up on all the things that have happened this week. And because we're in the lead up to the elections, which have been announced for the 29th of May, what is that? It's a Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
So they make it in the middle of the week so that most of us will pitch up.
So that you don't go away for the long weekend.
Right, because that'll happen. Both rich and poor, black and white, old and young, if people see a chance for a getaway, they will be in dereliction of their voting duty. They will disappear for the weekend.
Go away on the weekend.
Start drinking.
Although you
if
could
it's on
go
Saturday
you
morning.
could go on a short weekend. No, you could go on a short weekend close by. Like if you went to Magaliesburg. As long as you're in the province. You don't have
For me, don't tempt people. We must all do our duty this year. All right, so she has been she's been on Johannesburg's mayoral council. She's been the speaker. She was in COPE. She's also now the executive president of the South African Rainbow Alliance, a pact comprising like-minded minority parties, civic organizations, churches, and faith-based organizations across South Africa. It's a good, strong coalition that. We last spoke to Colleen when she was on the mayoral council, and that was in October of 2021. So much has changed, and she is our guest this morning on the Burning Platform. Colleen Makhubele. How are you, Colleen? It's nice to see you. It's very good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning for me.
Hello.
Thank you to the audience and the viewers.
So first of all, I love the jumpsuit. That beats the hell out of
sure.
all the other parties with their rubbishy little T-shirts. So
Yes.
Nice
yes.
job. Nice
Thank
job
you
there.
so much, especially the yellow and the red ones. Beats them all, the blue ones.
Yeah.
We tried to go for fresh, appealing to young people, people that
I like
do
it.
not vote so that they get interested.
So shall we just start off with SARA? I see your posters up all over the place.
Mhm.
The South African Rainbow Alliance. You didn't go with the word party. You didn't go with any of the buzzwords like democracy, peoples, this, constitutional, that, patriot, this. You didn't choose any of those. You went with
No.
Rainbow Alliance.
Rainbow Alliance.
Sounds
even
like
the
it could be like a
colours.
gay pride parade, but tell us why you chose the name.
Rainbow is very significant because we are a non-racial party. We want to do away with any divisions. We've been sliced and divided as South Africans for too long, whether along the lines of religion or race, you name it. And poor, rich. We think it's time that we put away all of those categories and labels and come together in this rainbow that Madiba had a dream about, and just rekindle and reclaim that. And we also stayed away from your typical struggle colors and spears and, yellows and green African, flags, etc. Because we think politics have actually moved from that liberation struggle, guerrilla movements, and all those socialist ideals that people dreamt and, debated on. We're in a different era that we need to face the future. We are a fresh party that wants to look at how do we turn around this country to be prosperous for all of us, that the so-called Tinswalo must be able to find a space, a prosperity. The so-called James, who's sitting somewhere else, must find this country to produce opportunities for them, find jobs, express themselves, integrate globally, integrate, continentally. Let's create a new South Africa that all of us can relate to and join together with.
Okay, so we'll move into the future in a minute with SARA, and we'll find out exactly what you guys are going to stand for and what you care about and what you want to represent. But before that, there are two small Lanyala skeletons in the cupboard that you always have to address. And the one is COPE, and the other one is Speaker of the council here, which there was so much controversy around these things. So let's just start off with COPE. How did the split happen? Who let who down? You tell us your side of the story.
Look, it's unfortunate that I have to keep repeating this.
I know.
It has not
I'm
been,
sorry. But
No, it's fine. It's important, and it has not even been disputed. President Terralikota unfortunately lied. When he came out in the media to say he knew nothing about SARA. He's been at the center, of the creation of SARA. I walked with him very close to the old man. Even the Sunday before I was fired, which I didn't know I was going to be fired, I was at his house and we meant to talk about the meeting that we're going to have on Monday with other coalition partners. It was instrumental to call various presidents, that are setting meetings with him and them, convincing them about this SARA. What pained me the most, and it's on the footages because we were filming this on our YouTube channel. He stood up in one of the meetings and we had different church leaders and he said, if we can get this SARA, this South African rainbow, whatever we call it, at that time we had not decided on SARA, it was still Super PACT. If we can get this thing going, I'm going to go to my grave a happy man, because it carries all the aspirations and the dreams of us who fought the freedom struggle, not just me, but those who died, in exile, along the road, in guerrilla warfare, etc. This is what South Africa needs. We all stood up and clapped and were moved by that. And it did something to us as young people, because we wanted to say, how do we rekindle what everybody dreams South Africa ought to be compared to what we have? And to a certain level, that's why we honored him. We said he was going to be President Emeritus. Love the old man. I still do. I learned a lot from him, but he did let me down very, very badly in the most humiliating way. But I think, he
So
wanted to be the president.
he wanted to be the president.
He wanted to be the
Okay.
president of this alliance. And it just
But they
wasn't going
voted.
to
They
work.
voted for you.
They voted for me because the idea was that South Africa needs fresh, new, competent, morally clear leadership that people can relate to. Young people, who are the majority of this nation, must be able to resonate and see themselves in the kind of leadership that we bring. We've got a lot of people that left. Even originally, most of us are from the ANC. There's a reason we left.
And we give credit to Mosiuoa Lekota. He was one of the first people to walk out and say,
Yes.
Bantu Holomisa was the first
Yes.
all those years ago, and now Mosiuoa
Now
Lekota.
Mosiuoa walked, and for the same reasons that most of us have eventually walked out, and he was proven right in his assertion of what was coming, and all of us walked out because of that, and mainly because we just don't see a space for young, competent leaders, morally clear leaders in the ANC. It's not a party for that. And we give credit to what they have done for the
Sure.
country. I think their time is just finished. Without bashing them and all the issues, their time has just run out.
All right, but then
They've
I'll
run out of
say
ideas.
this because you don't have to, and you've been very clear about this. You've stuck to the same story, which is great. But I got to say, like, as someone who once voted for COPE and who finds Mosiuoa Lekota to be a very smart, very charming, very very dignified old man. It's what he is. And I don't like saying old man because I don't want to be ageist. But the reality is, it does sound to me like he has a lot of fallouts with a lot of people. I mean, remember in COPE in the beginning, it was Bazima Shiloa. That fell out because the two of them were squabbling over leadership.
Yeah.
Ever since then, there have been more and more people who he's had problems. It wasn't Willie Madisha at one point was also a problem. They had a fallout. Eventually, if you are getting the same kind of reaction from person after person after person, it might just be you. Maybe that's why Mosiuoa Lekota's got to stop treating COPE as his
we have to stop
retirement
talking
plan.
about Mosiuoa Lekota.
Okay, we will. But I mean, we needed to get this out of the way.
Well, look, I think that there are a number of other things that we can talk about with regard to, because when you started SARA, it was an alliance of various compositions, and it was supposed to be a pact of smaller parties, particularly in the Joburg Council. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, certainly. But just to wrap up on Lekota, I think it's also an indication of African leaders, and I dare say especially male leaders, who don't know when it's time to exit the stage, when to hand over the baton. And it does tarnish their legacy and their brand, and I think that's something to reflect upon for not only Ntate Lekota, a lot of the ANC and other leaders sitting on the council and in the National Assemblies. It's serious thought. But yes, it still is SARA, that alliance of various minority parties, and with civic organizations, etc. We've had parties that, in fact, at the start of this, we've spoken to almost all the parties that are represented in the National Assembly. So hence, it's not just the Joburg Council. We looked at the National Assembly because now we are dealing with province and national politics. It's no longer the local politics. And hence, we needed the presidents to sit around the table at the time and have agreements. So President Lekota and President Godi of APC at the time were tasked, even myself, I was part of the team, as a facilitator, etc., to then facilitate all of these presidents from UDM and PAC, ACDP, all of them were contacted, even the Bossas, Shiluva, some of the newer ones that are, aiming for the high office. And the idea was all those 1% and less parties, which is about 9 of them, and most of them we differed ideologically. And it was okay, APC, PAC, ATM, they believe in, some of them Lent first and Africanism. They want to push a different socialist ideology. And we respected that because it doesn't find space where we are. We believe in neoliberal policies, market-friendly policies. We believe the important things is jobs. Land is good, is important, but it's not what young people need. If you're unemployed, over 3 million young people unemployed, even if I give you a piece of land right now, there's nothing that you're going to do about it. People want food on their table. They want money in their pocket. They want to feed their children, take them to good, clean hospitals. So we prioritize what was important for us. Some fell off because they felt, look, they'll go at it alone, and we had those kind of parties that told us that, like Bosa fell off at the time, Shiluva fell off at the time because of that. And those that remained then started, COPE was one of those that remained, came back and said, look, we've consulted with our structures, and it's there on record. We've consulted with our structures, we're happy, let's proceed, let's register this alliance, etc. Where you are also correct is that a lot has changed since then we were fired from COPE. Then SARA not only became an alliance of parties, it became a political party that stands on its own. I'm a member of SARA. We've got a lot of people that have joined as individuals who are members, and then we still have parties, we still have different churches, etc. So it's now a fully fledged party and operating like any other normal political party.
With all the infighting, I mean, I think just a couple of weeks ago, you've already got lots of reports around fighting with the AARM, with ICM, and them coming out and saying actually that
that was wrong reporting.
Wait, I'm not done. Yeah, because that's not the question. Coming out to say that they feel that the way that the party has now been shifted is it has become a bit of a COPE 2.0, and that there's not enough consultation happening within the party, which is a very worrying thing. At the very beginning of a party, it's literally been 3 months, and already you've got this kind of infighting that other bigger, older parties also have.
Look, that's why I'm saying to you, it's incorrect. Even the reporter has been taken to task to withdraw that story. It was a rumor that was flying. Nobody has, even Joe Mujabi, the president of ICM, has written a letter. He's never responded to any of those stories. We don't know where the reporter gets it from, even WhatsApp messages. Actually, we're taking legal action as a collective against that. So Manyane must answer, and we're talking to the editor. Even Iqbal has been written a letter, because it's things like that people create stories. And we've seen this kind of infiltrating to kind of create a story to destabilize the public around what SARA stands for. And there's no infighting. We're not fighting with Joe. Joe is still employed. He's still in the city of Ekurhuleni as a councillor. He's leading the minorities there. That story is false to the core. We're accused of having received 15 million rand of donation. There's no such. If we would have declared like Ras Mzan said there. So people have created, because they see our posters, and therefore there's money and people are creating stories, we're infighting. It is false to the core. As I sit here, I'm actually, I even released an article in Citizen 2 days ago. We want that money. We want businesses to fund us. White business, black business, especially black business, must not sit back and wait for administration to get tenders. They must get involved in political activities and fund the political change that we want. That story is false in every respect. So that's why I'm saying to you, don't read things like that and then make opinions where I have not commented on it. Joe has not commented on it. I'll send you even the letters that we've sent, legal letters, to say retract that story, and we're waiting for Sunday Tribune to do that. Where did they get it? Who gave them that story? It's not true.
So who does fund you? at the moment?
Look, we've got several small businesses that do fund us, nothing really to declare. We are funding ourselves as the presidential committee. Most of the things that you see, we're funding it ourselves. We are raising funding. We are speaking to everybody, from if you talk wide business, whether it's the Oppenheimers, whether it's overseas funders, local funders, we want funding. This is a very expensive exercise, and it has not been easy up until now.
But you mentioned the political party posters, which we see up, and you've probably got more of them up in Sandton than anyone else, right, Pums?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, good for you.
Well,
But,
in Joburg.
but
yeah,
as,
we
as you,
invested a lot on that, not only here, nationally. We
that's
invested
expensive.
very expensive, and we've got people that have given us the loans to be able to do that, and they assist us in terms of how we order this thing. That's how we've managed to do it, because they believe in the vision. And once we get the funding, then we must pay for it. But it's people that say, look, we don't have cash for you. This is our business. And several of them, it's not one. We can print posters to the value of this. We can print you T-shirts. We can do this for you. And we love that. And people are volunteering. If you see people all over the place, and the spirit that has been ignited is volunteerism. Unemployed graduates are on the ground every day, pushing this vision, pushing this agenda. People are spending their money, they're sacrificing. I've sold, I don't know how many things. I don't even have jewelry on me because I've pawned everything to make sure that this happens. But it's because we believe it's time that as young people, young South Africans, we take and reclaim our future. Instead of sitting and complaining and then point fingers at those who stand, let's do something. Let's do something.
What does that look like in terms of policies? If you were to say the top 3 policies that you are about, what are those?
We have adopted the gear that President Mbeki had between 96 and 2007. We've repurposed it, obviously, because material conditions have changed with COVID. We no longer have PRASA. We no longer have Transnet. We no longer have ESCOM. Things have just, SAA, flies on bails as well. So it's so bad. But we've taken those policies that had worked, gear for growth. One of the key policies is market business-friendly policies that we are pushing. We don't believe in this agitation and pushing away business, white monopoly, and going into the socialist side. No, we need business to create jobs. And this private sector is the biggest creator of jobs. And we believe that we need to privatize some of the state-owned entities that are not working. There's no point to have a PRASA that is dilapidating. The country is running on 1 trillion rand debt. 1 billion rand we pay daily on this. So one of our key policies is how do we turn around this debt situation using the very same policies of gear that President Mbeki implemented so well, so that we don't fall into the debt trap, right? And second, of course, is employment. Gear, E is for employment. How do we turn around the employment? One of the key things is job security, and we have to deal with the labor laws. Our policies is to review those labor laws, relax them, especially for SMMEs, for businesses that want to create employment. Accountable, morally clear, competent, merit leadership. We don't compromise on that. What you did, and we'll get to the city of Joburg, what we did with the city of Joburg with all those incompetent mayors, I'll talk to it. It cannot happen in national, it cannot happen in province. We have killed cities because of that. Look at from our president down to the cabinet. You can hardly point to anyone competent enough to do that job. The policy of redistribution. We do believe that there are those that deserve grants. They need to get grants, and proper grants, not 350. If our policies cannot create employment for you, we're going to give you the basic income grant. And a doctor cannot queue for 350 rands. It's an insult. We have to be able to give proper grants. Unemployed single men is one of the areas that we are targeting. And we've seen the highest suicide rate is around unemployed, especially black men. And the highest unemployed employment is amongst them, because police are favoring me and you. We're black women. We get most of the opportunities. We get ahead. They are sitting depressed. They can't get opportunities. Some of them are raising children. They're dependent on their mothers, their grandmothers to raise children. Why are we not looking after those children as a nation? So those are some of the policies that we are putting our top 4.
That's okay. So you've laid that out quite well. I mean, I see you say that you want to increase basic income, increase SASA grants, you want to lower the debt. You care about unemployed single men in particular, which I think is interesting. Nobody else has really spoken about them much. I mean, we talk about
We-
unemployed youth in general, right?
Because unemployment is a widespread problem,
Sure.
So, and I wonder how that actually pans out. There are more women than men registered to vote. So I wonder if it's just as much of an interesting topic for them.
Look, not registered to vote. I would argue to say there are more women eligible to vote.
No, registered.
Yeah,
I'm
but
talking about IEC statistics, more men than women.
no, yeah, more men. I agree with you.
More women than men
Yeah,
registered to vote. IEC statistic. That's okay.
and it's fine. I think it's debatable. We'll look at it. But everywhere we go, more men are at the front. Women have to be pushed, and there are more women. If women go out there, register to vote, young girls, I talked to Kesh, one of our policies is around cashiers and how we look after them. That is 40% of our labor force is the cashiers, and most of them look like you and me. It's black women, whether Indian, colored, whatever, it's black women. Most of those women, if we did not do the push that we did, we're not even registered to vote, unaware of what is happening. Voter registration, especially among women, is very, very poor. And they are the most people that will benefit out of voting right, because they're the most frustrated, with some of these laws, especially cashiers who are not looked after, no pension, no protection for
I
them.
I think it's worth taking stock of the fact that you are one of very few female leaders. We've had our female leaders in the past. There have been some very prominent women in politics. I mean, we had what was that party? I always forget them in KZN.
NFP.
Yes,
They were
yes,
one of
the late
NFP.
Magwaza.
That's right.
Mm.
Magwaza, and then Helen Ziller, obviously, for the DA. We've had a
Mampela.
few. Mampela Rampele.
Mm.
But like here you are there any other women at the moment who are presidents of their parties?
Look, I don't know of them.
I mean, it's
if they're
interesting.
there.
I'm not saying it's
Yes.
essential, but it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. I know one actually. AMSA. There's a party back in KZN. They're not actually competing. They've just started as well. She's approached us to align with us, but hardly any significant parties making waves.
They all
that
have
are-
lip service when it comes to this stuff. Talk about GBV or whatever else. but-
Gareth, it's not easy for women. I must tell you that. Even for me to come here this morning, I drop my children at school, every morning. I had to then make arrangements to make sure that I'm here, and somebody must then be able to drop them. And even funding for women parties, it's not coming through. They'll rather fund, compare myself and Mashaba, for instance. I bring more to the table, and I dare say that I can sit with him and tell him that in terms of competence, experience, qualities, moral clarity. But you'll rather put 10 million with Mashaba than with SARA. Why? You look at all of them, even Bossa. I'm asking myself, what is it that you've seen from him that is different, that is adding to the table? And I'm not saying this to shame them. I'm saying that to say, it's important that you understand why less women are sitting here. Because for me, I must sacrifice everything that I have to make sure this works. They get easily funding. Easy, not even making the waves that we're making. And also the social aspect of it. I won't be able to, I would love to travel the whole country all the time, be out there. I'm a mother of two. I must, think of my kids, be home. I'm not saying fathers don't do that, but mothers are more, responsible for the household
Colleen,
and looking
I've
after
actually
kids.
just pulled up on the IEC
Yeah.
app.
Mm.
In the 18-19 age bracket, 245,000 men are registered,
Oh, that's
318,000 women.
excellent.
In the 20 to 29 bracket, 1.9 men are registered, 2.4 women.
I'm happy. That's excellent.
In the 30 to 39 bracket, 3.1 million men are registered, 3.6 million women. So
I'm
more
happy
women
about that.
registered. They outperform in every single category, right up to over 60.
That's excellent. They must go out and vote now. I'm excited about
So,
it. Let them go out and
All right,
vote.
what are your realistic chances? Because you're competing nationally.
Yeah.
So you're on the national ballot. How many seats are you looking at here? How many votes in total are you looking at? What would you consider a success?
Look, we are looking at a minimum if we can get about 15 seats. would have done well as a new entrant to the party.
So
And that
what
is the-
percentage is that roughly of the
That's
national?
about almost 10%.
Ooh,
10%.
that's ambitious.
No, it's very ambitious,
What
and we
makes
don't
you
think
think
it's
you can get
impossible.
that?
Look, it's the strength of the alliances, the partners that we have on the ground.
Who are
And
they?
You mentioned churches. How important
we-
is that?
Very, very important. Look, South Africa is 80 to 85% Christian. You know, a lot of the people that we want to reach and talk to are in the churches. And when we align the values that we want to project, that we carry, and the policies that we want to push with what the church believes in, what the pastors believes in, they open up for us to go and talk to their members. And we find a lot, the Christian community in its spread, you know, and I'm talking Christianity ranges from born again Christian to Anglican, Catholics, ZCC, you know, it's a whole spread. Most of them resonate with the policies that we are putting on the table. And we're not saying we're going to sweep all 85% of them, no, because there are many other parties that also, you know.
Oh, there are lots of old relationships between the ANC
Exactly,
and some of these
exactly.
churches.
Yeah. So
Are you confident you can get a few of them, though?
we are confident, and we are seeing it as well.
Okay.
You know, the responses. Of course, we won't be on the ballot box with everybody who's going to make a tick, but there's a lot of church organizations that have given their support, and they've actually endorsed what we are doing as well. So I just trust that we sustain and maintain these relationships, and when they get to the ballot box, they remember.
Okay, so the
us.
Christians, who else?
We've got the Christians, mainly, that is our market. We've got ICM as an alliance partner as well. And we've got AMSA that I spoke about as our alliance partner as well. We've got traditional leaders that we have in Kwandebele. We've got Chief Mkiba. We've got the Bakhatlas in Bakhatla Bamusetla in the Northwest Makapanstad. We've got the traditional leaders in Guyana, where I come from, and churches around there. You know, I can name them: Komu, Homu, what do you call them, Mageba and Saniki. You know, there's a lot of very different. Yeah, so we've been on the ground to do that work. Look, we're not claiming, you know, sweeping success all over, to say once you've spoken to the chief endorses you, the communities there, therefore, you know, it means everybody is going to then put a cross, you know, on SARA. But we're claiming that we are going to get some numbers there. People will have a choice of who they talk to. You know, even in a church, there are some people who are benefiting from the ANC. They may come and say, hallelujah, amen, we're with you, but they know my bread is buttered here. So they're going to go and vote where they vote.
So we were just talking about the party lists, which is the next big thing that's going to be coming up. I'd be very interested to know, you're hoping to get 15 seats. Who you fill those seats with?
No, we have a whole team that we are going to fill the team. We've got a nominations committee that is processing, and I stand to be corrected. They can correct over 350 applications that have come through. 350 applications, and these are professionals. These are unemployed graduates. These are social activists. These are people that are community leaders. You know, some may not have the educational qualifications, but they are community leaders that are verified. So it's a task that is huge for the team that are looking at the list. So once that is finalized, and it cuts across national, provincial, and all the different provinces.
I think before name recognition is a very important thing when it comes to any kind of branding, any kind of purchasing decision, any kind of voting decision. Before the local general election, I don't think anybody would have heard the name Colleen Makhubele. What is it that you think will get South Africans across the board to vote for a party name they've never heard before and people's names they've never heard before? What is it that will get them to vote for you?
Look, I think people have known Colleen and what Colleen brings to the table and what Colleen can do. I understand about SARA. We're building the brand. And Colleen has stood for competence, has stood for clean governance, has stood for moral clarity. They don't call me the speaker of the people in the city of Joburg for nothing. It's because they have seen my work on the ground with the people. That have expressed immense confidence for the different parties in the alliance to sit and say this is a leader that we want to rally up behind, and I think it's a huge showing of confidence, which is humbling. So I'm not concerned about that. The brand will build. And I think South Africans are not even looking for name recognition, as you would say it. My experience on the ground is not that. Yes, ANC is out there, etc., but we are disgusted with all of the names that we see and hear about, because South Africans are looking for change that is credible, change that promises something that resonates with them and their aspirations and desires. You look at even some of the newer parties that are making waves, and respect what they're doing, even Rise and Songes. It's not a name that you recognize, but people resonate perhaps with him in terms of what he's bringing to the table. I think the political climate and the electorate of South Africa has so evolved such that they are not interested actually in those names that you are talking about. They are interested in somebody that they can connect with, relate with, somebody that they know they can also hold accountable. And that's why they are responding to us.
So there are a couple of comments here, Colleen, and I think we want to go to some of the questions. Some of our listeners here are single issue voters. So they want to know, for example, someone here says, so you have nothing to say for the secular middle class in South Africa. Gulu and Congo, Chris, asking about that. Someone wants to know your stance on Israel. Someone else wants to know your stance on BEE.
Yeah. Let's start with the middle class. I think we have a lot to say about middle class. I was asked to give our top 3, and I actually gave the top 4, of some of the policies that we have. We're launching our manifesto around the 16th of March, but it will be confirmed. And then you'll get to hear in full detail what we have to offer for the middle class. What are the middle class concerned about? The middle class are concerned about the quality of education, the quality of healthcare. They're concerned about the security of their job, the economy that must work, crime. And those are the things that we're going to address. What are they concerned about? SMMEs. We've got, as I said, we want to give tax breaks to SMMEs up to a certain threshold. We want to give labor relations, labor laws relaxation for some of those SMMEs and big businesses as well, to create jobs so that we are able to alleviate some of the crime that we have. We're able to feed the people that we have that are loitering around. And middle class is concerned about, when my child graduates, will he find a job? Will he find opportunities? Will he find a country? And that's what we are trying to resolve here. Can we find a country with all of these things that are happening with AGOA, Israel? I'm bringing in Israel. We are standing a good chance that in the next 2-3 years, we're going to see the impact of what South Africa has done, in terms of the ICJ and the impact of the relationship. Our biggest trading partner is AGOA, like it or not. I don't know what is your stance on the West and what monopoly capital, whatever. Our biggest trading partner is the West. And if we're not able to manage our relationships with all our stakeholders intelligently, not swayed by emotions and where your money comes from. You must be able to be a leader that is sober when you deal with issues. And what we did with the ICJ, I'm not in a support of it, but I do condemn killing and violence. Hamas killing. Israel retaliated in a manner that also went extreme. But there was a reason why they retaliated. If we're going to take anyone to ICJ, let's take Hamas as well. Why are we condoning terrorism? We are for peace. We want all the communities to be treated equally. We don't support the singular stance of South Africa in dealing with one country and one country alone. We need everybody to find peace. We need to work with everyone, including the West. Let's not agitate people that are bringing a lot of value also into the country. We respect China, we respect Russia. If they bring value, we want to work with them.
Okay,
so
and
that's
BEE?
Look, BEE in its current form is not working. It has created inequalities. BEE has created a huge inequality between the senior cadres and senior officials of the ANC and our 18 to 20 million South Africans. It has to be reviewed. It has not benefited anybody except for those that are connected. I'm for transformation, and there will be transformation. But it cannot be done at the expense of the country the way it has been. It cannot be done to benefit only a select few the way it has been done. I think we need to review all of that and go back to say, how do we transform South African society so that we all share in the prosperity? We all create opportunities for all South Africans without creating inequalities that our children must then look at creating. And also isolating and the white community, the Indian community, the colored community. We have sliced and divided this country enough. BEE, with all of this good intention, has failed this country.
South Africans are tired of hearing people make promises. They're tired of hearing all the rhetoric, particularly around this time of the year. And unfortunately, the ANC has two parts of a coin to tell. So people can look at the ANC and say, I now have water, I now have electricity 3 times a week or whatever. When people look at Colleen and they say, well, in Joburg, we don't see what she did in Joburg, and eventually she was expelled out of her position in Joburg. Why should we believe that she can hold it together to get to national?
Look, I would say I was expelled for a different reason, not that I was not doing anything. There's never been a speaker in the city of, and I dare say nationally, that has done to the great extent what I have done in the city of Joburg. Nobody knew of the role of the speaker until I came on board. Nobody even spoke of a speaker. No, I'm telling you.
True.
No, it's
That's not
true. It's true because
But people didn't know the role of a speaker.
No, most
Okay.
didn't. Maybe you would have known. You can speak for yourself and a couple. But a lot of people started to understand the role of the speaker when I came on board because I was visible. I began to hold people accountable, especially the executives accountable. I was not popular, believe me or not. I'm hated in that coalition that I was with because I stood for what I believed was the principle was correct. We even fought when it came to who do we put at the forefront, because I had even raised my hand even to be the mayor because I could see that this is chaotic and disaster. So in terms of really serving the citizens of Joburg, I was first in line to respond to any issue, any crisis in the city. I was there. If you ask the NPOs around the city of Joburg, because I'm not service delivery, don't expect me to have given you water and electricity, etc. It's not the role of the speaker. In terms of the role of the speaker legislated, I have excelled in all of those. That's why you would know there's a speaker, this is what she's doing. People will be able to understand. NPOs knew where they stood. Citizens understood. We did civic education. I held executives to account. There was order, and there was really clean governance, in terms of running of council and the matters of council. I don't know what is happening now. In terms of the role of the speaker, I dare you. Bring the evidence. I will dispute it. And I've done a lot. I was not expelled because I was not doing a good job. I was expelled by COPE for the reasons that I alluded to earlier. So that cannot be correct.
So the two areas that I'm really interested in, which you've highlighted, which I don't hear any of the other parties really talking about, and you've already hinted at one with the traditional leaders. We'll get to that in a second, because I do think it's an interesting part of South Africa that we need to pay attention to. We have supposedly a House of Traditional Leaders, the second house in our parliament, but they really are just a rubber stamp in so many ways for what comes before and after them. But the other area that you talk about is the informal economy, which I think is an important and interesting thing in South Africa. We have no idea. We had the budget speech yesterday, and we talk about big business and big corporations, and we even talk about SMMEs, small businesses. But what we don't pay any attention to is the cash economy, the township economy, the informal economy, which is a huge part of South Africa and provides probably a lot more employment than the official records would suggest.
Yes.
So let's start with the informal economy, and then I want to hear your thoughts on traditional leaders, because you've got some ideas there as well.
Yeah. Look, we're very clear that we want to protect and grow the informal economy. You said it right, because it's the biggest job creator at the moment, and it will be. And if we don't assist the informal economy, not only to create jobs for foreigners in this country, that's where we have lost it, and we're going to continue to lose it. We need to work with them, assist them, grow them, so that they are able to create jobs for locals. A lot of the fights that you have in our townships where people are taking our jobs is because it's happening in that a spaza shop there. It's happening in that little restaurant by the corner there. It's happening in this service station that is owned by Colleen in the corner there, etc. And if we're able to say, and it comes back to the labor laws, that's why we need to review these labor laws. The mistake that South Africa has made is to be run by unions to the detriment of the country, to be run by the likes of SACP, the Communist Party, to the detriment of the country. Because most of these labor laws that are unsustainable, that nobody can be able to uphold, etc., especially if you are in the informal sector, they run to employ foreigners so that they don't have to comply with them. They don't have to be able to,
and then obviously that's bad for the foreigners and it's bad for us.
I'll rather you give a South African that job that pays 1.5. They have food on their table. They can take care of the bare minimum, than to take that money, exploit even a foreigner, give him even half or even less of it, and deny the South African an opportunity. Because that is what is happening.
You've given a more direct answer than Roger Jardine did last week. Come on, Phumi, it's true.
No,
it's true.
I mean, even government itself, in their informal, the EPWP program that they're having, they're not even paying that the regulated income of 3.5. You look at it, they're paying those people way less. Right. Why are they forcing every other person to pay that minimum salary when they can't even do it in the informal sector? I think if we really want to kill unemployment, we must do that. And one of the key things that we're proposing as well is the 24-hour economy. 24-hour economy.
What is that?
The level where South Africa is, and especially this affluent metros, your KZN, your Durban, your Joburg, etc. We should be operating like your London, your Tokyo, your Japan, your New York, etc. That 24-hour economy. I can come out of work 7 o'clock, still go to Sandton 9 o'clock, still go to a ShopRite Checkers anywhere, Cresta or somewhere in Guyana, and buy. And that will have unemployment immediately, because already you're creating 3-hour shifts in a day. We as South Africans, vibrant as this economy is, the global economy and the biggest in Africa, by 7 o'clock, Gareth, you and I are at home watching TV, we're watching Generations or Yizo or soccer. All of us become unproductive.
That's also an issue of safety and security, and you haven't spoken about that yet.
You are going to deal with crime in that manner. You know why crime thrives? Because it's dark. After 7 is the conducive time. We've given time to crime, etc. When police are working 24/7, everybody, security is working 24/7. We are at work 24/7. The economy is generating 24/7. There's no time where somebody's going to be lurking in the dark trying to create crime, because transportation is working 24/7. It's suddenly safer even for you to walk around because it's happening. It's busy. You see, yes, we're going to have crime fighting. We've got policies that will deal with that. We'll put your cameras, whatever. But the fact that you don't have room to create this crime, you have to be very, very creative.
So let's just quickly talk, because I think there's a lot in the economy stuff that we can still unpack, but I don't want us to get boring. So traditional leaders.
Yes.
You don't like the way. No, I mean, even after budget day, Phumi, it can be boring if we go into too much detail. And Colleen has answered every question. I don't want to. Some of the comments have also said they didn't know about you before, but they're impressed with what you're saying. And of course, there are also critics. But traditional leaders, big part of South Africa, we put them in this house of traditional leaders, which is supposedly going to make a difference. It doesn't. It's really just lip service. Why are traditional leaders important, and how would you reform the way that we've got them represented at the moment?
Look, my desire, if we're to get the majority and be able to look into the Constitution, we must start by putting them in the Constitution. It was a big error that traditional leaders don't feature in our Constitution. Every other thing that we're doing is reactionary to them. And hence you find that even the government that we have undermines and their traditions and customs of how they even select their leaders. They're crying a lot about that, because a premier must select a chief, or must endorse or recommend who must be appointed as a chief. That's not how we work traditionally. Traditional leaders have been relegated to report to a premier. When you look at traditional leaders in the Western scenario, even in the UK, you look at the Queen, she's above the Prime Minister. When the budget comes, she doesn't just, well, that was the king, now we've got the king. They don't just endorse it, they are consulted, they give input. Our traditional leaders are crying around IDPs, how they are also implemented. They are just there to rubber stamp. And even, in fact, even whether they rubber stamp or not, constitutionally, there's nothing they can do. They're just consulted because it's respect and we just want to do it. But a municipality can go and do whatever they want in the traditional leaders' land without any of their approval, because the law empowers us as, well, I'm no longer in the municipality, empowers the municipality to do that. Even when they sit in council, those that have traditional leaders, I know Tswane does have, they are given a seat there to sit in council. It's like they're watching a show. They have no input, they have no voting rights, they can't even say anything. They just sit there ceremoniously and then go home and we say we've consulted traditional leaders. We think it's an insult to them. We have to review how we treat them.
And you would have the communities themselves play a role in electing these people to...
Already there are customs, you know, like we saw a classic example with King Misizulu. You see, traditionally people know this is our chief. Even in Bakhatla, there's a huge fight going on right now between the community and what the administration, the provincial administration has put as a chief there. So allow the community, the people, they know who the bloodline are. Fights will always be there. This is, you know, chieftaincy in our tradition has always been a space of contention, but families know how to resolve this thing. And the customs and the traditions, they tell you, how do you select a chief? But one of the key things they're crying about is water rights as well. Most of them, they've got water that is passing through their villages that they have no water rights to. The water rights were historically, under the apartheid government, were given to commercial farmers who were mainly white. Yes, the government has messed it up trying to take that away, and we've got all sorts of issues. But they also want water rights, because in that way, they're able, without having to depend on the municipality for water that is passing through them, assist their communities, because the river passes through them. They can't touch it,
So
but they
are
have to
you-
wait for the municipality to allocate water to them to be able to allocate
So
to
are
their...
you proposing a different and parallel structure to municipality that is chieftaincy based?
I'm not proposing a parallel structure. I'm proposing a way where we integrate them to have a voting right, to have a voice, not just to be observers.
But that's a constitutional change. How would
That's
you do
why I
that with
said
15 seats?
Yeah, that's what I said. My desire, it was my starting point. My desire, should we get enough numbers, the starting point will be to change the constitution, and therefore flows out of the different legislation to give them those rights. But the simple things that you can do now, give them water rights. They want to be able to look after their people. Water is it's an economic and a social.
It's important to mention this. I
Infrastructure.
don't think we've spoken to any political parties who've even brought up water rights, but it is going to become a contentious issue in the future. We're pretty much guaranteed of that, right?
Yeah, with the shortage of water now,
Yeah.
people need to be able to control the flow of water. Remember, traditionally, in most African cultures, water is not just what you and I maybe use for drink and what. It's also, they've got customs that they use water for. You know, different things. They've got different beliefs around water, and which they've expressed to us. And that's why they want to be able to control the flow of water, especially if it passes through their jurisdiction. They should have the right, because it's in their territory, you see.
All right. Well, we've only got 10 minutes left. So
Oh my goodness.
yeah, I know. We've been speaking to Colleen. There are a couple more questions here. We can get to some of those just now. Is there anything else you wanted to go with, Pums? Because I do think that we've got very straight up answers so far. So it's nothing, you haven't dodged any questions.
No,
Is there anything that you want to say that you think we haven't covered?
I do have this to ask. You speak a lot about young people. If you were to talk directly to a 27-year-old South African listening now, as your pitch to why on the 29th of May they must walk into that booth and find your name and your logo and put their cross next to it, what is that?
I think this is very important. The young people, and most of them who are eligible to vote and who were 94, my apologies, 2019, did not vote. The government that we are sitting with is the government that was chosen by your mothers, your fathers, your aunties, your grandmothers. And those people are benefiting from the government that they have chosen. They've got their grants, whether they're happy or not. And if you want a government of your choice that is going to serve you, go out and vote. I'm not saying SARA or any other new party is going to give you 100% of what you're looking for. But for goodness sake, can we stop complaining about there's too many parties, there's this and this, I'm confused. Make up your mind, go and put your cross next to a party that you think closely resembles or represent what it is that as a young person in South Africa, the kind of future that we're looking for is going to bring for you. This whole notion of a nonchalant attitude and, I'm not going to vote because I'm not happy, I don't want this, etc. Stop it, because you did not even vote for what is happening right now. It's about time that young people reclaim. For me, I want to talk to young people that says, you know what, we voted and now we are not getting what we voted for. That's a conversation that I want to have. But those that stayed at home and they have a lot to say, democracy will happen without you, whether you like it or not. It's going to happen on the 29th of May and the results are going to come out. If you want a different result, get off your seat, stop drinking alcohol, stop complaining about joblessness, go out, help us to change this nation. You may not like Colleen as a person, but if you think that I can contribute to changes, I can bring a different dynamic, let's go out there. The danger, Gareth, that we're facing, and if young people don't rise now, we're going to end up with a parliament on the 30th of May. We're going to end up with a parliament with Jacob Zuma, with Ace Mahashula, Carl Niehaus, Mkhwebane, you name them, Julius Malema. We're going to end up with Cyril Ramaphosa settling scores at the expense of the taxpayers' money and our future. All of them are going there to settle scores with the ANC of Ramaphosa. We may not be your favorite, but our hearts are in the right place. You criticize us or not, we want to go and make a difference. We don't have the magic wand to fix everything, but we want to bring fresh leaders. You may not know who they are, because that's exactly why we don't want you to have those that you know. They've done nothing for you. We're bringing new people, fresh ideas, engineers, professionals, competent people, people that you can interview with merit. We are looking at 300 CVs. Out of all of those 300 CVs, 200 are unemployed graduates, some of them masters, some of them busy with honors, etc. People that can come and add value to this government with brilliant ideas. You should see some of the proposals that I've put in there. Give them an opportunity.
Someone says in the comments, Sanel says, random question, is this person related to Judge Makhubele?
No, I'm not related. Yeah.
I told you, get all the questions here, right?
I've gotten that one before. No, we're not related. Yeah.
Is she Gayton's sister, says Noluvuyo?
No, because I actually don't believe in Abahambe foreign stuff that Gayton is talking about as well. We've got a different approach when it comes to foreigners. I love Gayton. I've worked with him. He's a good brother, but I don't believe we're not an indecent nation.
Chulu says she's making mum threats now. When you're telling young people to get out there and stop drinking.
Mum threats.
Stop drinking, get out there and vote. Okay. I mean, listen, people are enjoying this.
Yeah.
And I do think that settling of scores with Cyril Ramaphosa's ANC is a very good point. There's a lot of people who are doing that. That's what it is.
Wow.
Wow. I mean, there may be scores to settle, right?
Yeah.
Lamula in the comments says, vote Sarah. Okay.
Thank you, Lamula.
I think Lamula might already be in the party. I'm just guessing. I've never seen Lamula in the comment. Have you ever seen Lamula in the comment?
Lamula, you've given yourself away.
Lamula is a plant.
Any comments from you on,
Lamula, you
on
made
yesterday's budget with Enoch Godongwana? Anything you want to throw in
Look,
there?
You can't even comment on anything. A budget that is running on a deficit. It's not even worth commenting on. It's not worth the paper that it's written on. I think if we don't sort out the debt issue, we're running a huge risk. If South Africa doesn't sort out its trade relationship with its important partners, we're running a serious risk. That budget is just going to blow in our face. So that's all I have to say about that.
Azalea says you're amazing.
There are people quoting scripture there in
There are
the
people
comments.
Amen.
God says,
Amen.
Fear of the
We
Lord.
bring God back to schools, to the communities. And I want you guys, Christians, let's bring God back and let's stop fighting Israel. Let's stop fighting
So-
anybody.
So a lot of people will be asking, because some of the things you say may overlap with some of the other parties and what they're doing. Why didn't you join a Kenneth Meshwe, a DA, a Herman Mashaba? You decided to go on your own.
Yeah, I did, because there are several factors. DA, I don't believe they are fully representative. I've worked with the DA and I've found they have a lot of work to do in becoming non-racial in practice. And they've agitated a lot of senior black leaders that have gone out of the window. And the fact that they have put on the table still resonate with me, having seen the DA. Why I didn't join Mashaba, I just think he's too arrogant. He's missed an opportunity. It was a party that I would have joined. I don't think Action SA has lived up to the promise that we thought it will live up to. And I love a lot of people that I've worked with within Action SA, Michael Beaumont, etc. And I wish them well. I think we'll join forces. I would love to work with them in a coalition, but to join them under Mashaba, I don't think so. Why didn't I join? Who's the third one?
Hang. Sorry, not a
There's
Hang.
no hang.
I mean, Kenneth Meshwe.
Especially because of the
ACDP.
Christian
The
stance.
ACDP,
Yes,
yeah.
That's an important question. I never really thought about it. Why we didn't join ACDP? It was. I can think about it. We can maybe form a coalition. I have nothing against
And the
ACDP.
multi-party charter, I mean, would you talk to them?
Oh, yes, I would talk to them, because I think we align in terms of our policies. We may differ in implementation here and there, but we are very, very much aligned in ideologically, etc. They may not like me. I don't think I'm their favorite because of what happened in the city of Joburg. Helen Zille is still holding on to that. She was suing me, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the case is there ongoing.
What's she suing you for?
200,000 rand for calling her a racist. I don't think I was the only person in history. I mean, I just borrowed from some of the phrases that were already on the internet, and we've demonstrated that.
So she's
But I have
suing
a
you.
lot of respect for her and what she's done with the DA and what they're doing. But and like I said, ideologically we align. We don't align with most of what the ANC is going, the direction they're going. And
So Snae says here, we need strict people to run this country. I love her strict tone when she answered that question from Phumi.
What did they say? Strict mum vibes.
Mum vibes.
Mm.
Right, well,
Strict mum.
there we go. Strict mum.
I'm a mother of 2 boys, so I know how to deal with you all, especially these men. I'm telling. That's why in council there was no disorder in council, and we have to have that strict management. That's why the leadership in our country is so poor. Cyril cannot even call the cabinet to order. All the.
Would you trim some of the cabinet?
Oh, yeah. That's very important. We want to trim from 29 to 20 ministers. We're going to save around 60 billion rand on that per annum. Take it to the grants. We're also removing the deputy ministers. We don't think it's important. We'll save another 40 billion rand on that. If a minister cannot perform their job effectively on their own, they are not fit to be there. We don't need deputy ministers. I've worked with these people. There's nothing that they are doing in there. It was just cadre deployment. Let's
Look,
get
it's in
minister.
the constitution. It's constitutional. So
Look.
they have that role because it's in the constitution. It's
Yeah.
just it is catered deployment because the ANC has been the biggest party up until now, but it's the constitution of the country that
Yeah,
requires it.
Well, that
No,
be
but-
changed,
but
like
it-
traditional
it-
leaders. Colleen has
it
got
must
big
be
goals.
changed.
She's got big goals.
Yeah, it needs to be changed. I mean, really, is it saving us? There's a lot of things in the constitution, by the way, that we also don't do, right? As long as you're not violating the constitution, some of the things we really are not implementing as a country that are in the constitution, So yeah, even voting constitutionally, we're supposed to vote for a president, as well. So there are a lot of things that we can look at, and legally you may find provisions to say, yes, it's in the constitution. You're not violating the law, but you may be silent on it.
So Canthan is in the comments this morning because he isn't here in person. And he says, good to have a politician who understands basic economics. We're going to end it on that. Colleen, thank you. It's a great pleasure to have you here. And I think you've spoken very clearly about where you stand on things.
Thank you.
I
Oh,
saw the
how?
posters. It took me a while to figure out what was going on. I think you've been very clear about what's on your agenda. I wish you well. I hope you get somewhere near your 10% goal. I always say to every politician who comes in here, I hope you get what you want. Because if there are enough people who vote for you,
10% is 40 seats.
it's a lot of people.
10%
It's a lot of people.
of the votes
Yeah.
equals 40 seats because we've got 400 seats in the parliament. So 15 is just under 4% of the votes.
We're going to aim for that. And I want to encourage
For
people,
40
go
seats.
and oppose the Bella Bill, the Basic Education Laws and Amendment Bill. Very important. Hearings are happening from tomorrow. Really, this is my last word. Go and oppose it. And if you don't do that...
Why are you opposing it out of interest?
First and foremost, I think our focus should be on improving our numeracy, literacy, and our curriculum. We are ranked the lowest, even in terms of STEM and science in school. Well, in South Africa, in the world, we're ranked the lowest. Infrastructure, the lowest. Why do we want to introduce sex education to children that are 5? Why do we want to teach our children LGBTQI at school? I respect that community. They've got space where they operate, but I don't want children to go to school to learn those things. There are a lot that we can be improving in our education. We've lowered the standard too much to accommodate incompetency, and it hasn't. We can't even export brains out of this country. We are not a producing country. We can't export products. We can't even export experts that are running Fortune 500 companies all over the world because of the type of education that Angie Motshekga and the cohorts have created here. Bella, it's a disaster. It must be opposed. Let's focus on improving the quality of our education and the infrastructure.
You'll be there?
And I'm going to be there.
Opposing this?
Sarah, yes, Sarah's going to be there tomorrow. We're opposing it. And we hope that we're going to receive support.
Well, Carl says the Bella Bill is horse shit. She's 100% right to
Yes.
oppose it. Now I like her even more. All right, Colleen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very nice to have you here,
Yo,
Colleen
Carl.
Makhubele.
Thank you. Thank you for me. Thank
Carl.
you, Karen.
Why are you
Yeah,
saying
why
Carl?
am I your calling? Carl, if you've shaken Carl from the DA, that's all I have to say.
Carl says, I hope they get 15%. All right. So all round, I think you've been a hit this morning.
Thank you.
Seems the audience enjoy you. So let's hope you get those numbers.
Thank you so much. Thank
All
you.
right,
Appreciate
everybody.
it.
That's all we got time for today. That is the Burning Platform. We will have more political leaders for you in the next couple of weeks. We've got quite a roster to get through before we get to the elections.
We've got 14 weeks.
Little time, much
14
to do.
weeks.
All right, Phumi,
Yeah.
we'll see you next week, Thursday. Thank you, Colleen.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Phumi.
Bye-bye.